Good morning. Welcome to Door County Outdoors on WDOR. I'm Chad Michaels, Mike Karampolis, and Tim DeWittiak from FishDoorCountyTV.com with us. This week we're brought to you by the Neighborhood Pub and Grill, 14th at Egg Harbor Road, Sturgeon Bay. And we'll speak with Dean Gordon from Hooked Up Charters, winner of the Sturgeon Bay Offshore Challenge last weekend. That's coming up next. Door County Outdoors on WDOR. Good morning and welcome to Door County Outdoors on WDOR. Tim and Mike here, and guys, we say good morning. Last weekend, as we know, Sturgeon Bay Offshore Challenge. Tim, we'll get to you in a minute. You fished the ladies tournament. I mean, you tried to even the playing field.
That's all I can fish now is the ladies tournament.
We have the actual winner with us now, Dean Gordon from Hooked Up Charters. Good morning, Dean. You bet. How are you doing today?
Hey, Dean, we talk about, fishing out on the bank and that, and, you won the first tournament here a few years ago, and now you win again, and, most people don't realize just how, I guess I would say just how tough that is. I mean, most people in their lifetime would like to win that tournament one time. Here, you've won it twice. What do you think makes you different? I mean, you're not doing anything as far as fishing different water, but why do you think that you're so successful fishing where you are?
Well, as with any kind of fishing, luck obviously plays a big role in it, but certainly we put together a pretty good group of guys here that are on the water fishing for the most part 7 days a week, twice a day all summer long. And I always tell the new first mates when they come on the boat, attention to detail is probably 90% of salmon fishing. You can be basically two boats alongside each other, dragging the same stuff, doing the same thing, but it's the little stuff that if you're not dialed in on the little details, that makes the difference between sometimes 10 and 20 fish a trip. And in a tournament, if you can put 20 fish in the boat versus 10 fish, there's a good chance you're going to have the right ones to make the difference. But I don't think anything that we were doing over the weekend was much different than most of the other boats fishing. We just had, for whatever reason, had luck on our side and couldn't be happier about it.
What do you consider the little details as far as your boat?
Well, boy, I don't know. I guess we don't want to give away all the secrets here. Not that anything, our stuff for the most part is so secret the fish don't even know about it.
Come on, Dean, spill them.
Boy, it's just the little stuff as far as how far you're running your baits behind the ball, how far apart your baits are, and then speed and every day is a little bit different fishing the bank reef, and we just happen to have the right conditions that made everything just the way we like it. I mean, there's times where other boats are catching more fish than we are when the fish are a little bit deeper or we get a different wind, but when the fish are where they were, we're pretty much it can be just about as competitive as anybody can, and it just worked out for us.
Hey, Dean, a question for you here. When you're out guiding as opposed to fishing a tournament, are you doing stuff different fishing tournaments than you are in your charter trips?
No, in fact, we talked about it the night before, and basically we just went out and fished this tournament just like we fish every other trip. In this case, we did do a few things different. We ended up figuring out a pretty good bite going a certain direction, so we actually, on the first Saturday, we actually never trolled south. We're on charter. We don't have 8 guys on the boat to pull lines up fast, and it just would be conducive to charter fishing. So I guess we did, that was probably the only thing different as far as the bait presentations and everything else. All that was pretty much exactly the same as we do every other day all summer long.
And I've been on your boat and I've talked to you over the last few years and that, and when you talk about attention to detail, I know what you're saying when you say that, because I mean some people, even like you're down to your leader lengths off your baits, say you're running flashers or flies, those leader lengths, your dipsy leader lengths. I mean that's all really, really important stuff, isn't it?
It most certainly is, and for guys that run flashes and flies, and depending on the type of flasher that you're running, and the leader length is very key. And we've experimented with different weights of fluorocarbon fly leader material. And we've came to the conclusion that for the 50-pound fluorocarbon leader, running our, at the speed and with the flashes that we use, about a 28-inch fly like this tends to be probably 4 inches longer than most of the boats run out there. So just one of those little details that that seems to make a difference, whether it be luck or not. That seems to be what works for us.
So, Dean, would you predominantly consider yourself a flash or fly guy? Are you a spoon guy? Do you run them together at certain times, or do you generally try to?
We typically run them together at all times. In fact, we always have about a 50-50 mix of flashes, flies, and spoons on the boat at the same time, and that's where finding that the right leader length for your flies that works with the spoons is key. You know, now you could run a shorter leader with lighter pound lines and troll slower, and a lot of guys do and have real good success with that. But for us, having the leaders a little bit longer keeps them working at the same speed as our spoons do. So it's just one of those little things that seems to make a difference. Whether it does or not, I don't know, but seems to be working out.
I would imagine, you know, when you're fishing the water that you're fishing and there's boats next to you, it's got to be a pretty good feeling when, you know, your net, you know, you're in the water a bunch and the boats around you during the tournament aren't. I would imagine if you're on the other boats, pretty frustrating, but if you're on your boat, that's just kind of second nature because, you know, you've done this for so long and you've been very consistent fishing, you know, how you fish.
Well, it certainly is a good feeling, and especially in a tournament when you're kind of looking around and not seeing the nets fly. Now, one major disadvantage that has, you know, we try to be as discreet as we can on charters and obviously in the tournament because it's a small area where we're fishing, and as soon as you put a bunch of boats there, it most certainly slows the fishing action down, makes the fish a little bit more, you know, they're spooky and don't want to feed quite as much. So we especially noticed that on day 2 this year, there was considerably more boat traffic fishing the same area we were. Now, those the boats that were in there didn't seem to be, you know, they weren't catching fish like we were, but yet they thought they needed to be in that area. And a lot of times, I can't stress enough, you know, it's just you know, finding an area away from the boat sometimes is one of those things that gets overlooked and underestimated a lot of times, especially early in the morning. Fishing in Sturgeon Bay here, we get a lot of boat traffic, so sometimes just fishing, you know, we'll go out on our morning trip and make our first pass outside of all the boats, and it makes a big difference, either outside or inside of the boat, and go from there.
You talked about fishing twice a day, every day. Do you consider that an advantage then when you get to tournaments versus guys that may be out a couple of times a week?
It most certainly does. I mean, the guys that we have on the boat, I consider probably some of the best around. Certainly the best that I've ever fished with, and they get that way because they, you know, it's paying attention to the different weather patterns, and the different wind directions, and the different bait presentations that you know, basically by the time the tournament comes around in August, these guys have seen just about every different kind of possible configuration that you can get out here, and that definitely makes a difference.
Who are those guys? Who's your crew?
We've got an excellent crew here. We've got Captain Danny Wadsworth, Captain Bob Gordon, my brother. We've got Captain Bo Nyman, who's been with us for 5 years. He's probably the most consistent on the boat. He's on here every day. We've got my brother Steve was on the boat, first mate south to south, and my dad Jim was on the boat. And also we had Andrew Marcel, who first made it with us years ago. From down in Two Rivers, and comes up every year and helps us out a few times. Comes up to the tournament every year. So we had a real good group of guys. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of interesting stuff going on. We were probably one of the only boats that pulled lines to turn around for a shoe that fell over the side, thanks to Captain Dan Rankin. But we had a good time. It was a fun weekend, and we're looking forward to doing it again next year.
Well, you know, you bring up a good point. Not only, you know, you guys won the tournament, but just that whole tournament in itself, since it's been here, it's really a fun event, isn't it, Dean?
It sure is. You know, like I say, you know, we worked our butts off all summer long, taking clients out on the water, and it's just really nice to take the weekend off and just kick back and enjoy ourselves, fish for fun. The tournament started off, as you guys mentioned at the start of your show here, with the women's and kids event on Friday. And we always we took all our girlfriends out and fished that tournament, and the girls came up a couple pounds short. We ended up in second place, but still had a lot of fun, and it's just it's one of those things that it's a really enjoyable weekend. It's one of the things we look forward to every year, and hopefully they can continue to keep the tournament growing and keep it going.
So, Dean, one question is a lot of guys will ask, like, when you have a tournament format like a salmon tournament where you have multiple guys in the boat, multiple captains, and everybody kind of knows how to fish, like you said, do you have any issues, or how do you determine, like, the roles on the boat? Do you have certain guys doing certain things, setting riggers, certain guys reeling in or netting, or is it just kind of a, how it goes?
The nice part about at least the way we do things on our boat is so consistent from day to day, right from the start in May until now that we know, everybody on the boat knows exactly which downrigger is going to which depth, which dip is going out how far, and it's because it's the same every day, and we refine that process. We don't even have to, nobody has to ask anybody, hey, do you have, is this downrigger this depth? You just know it's there, and if somebody starts slacking a little bit, there's, that's the nice part about having so many guys on the boat. There's always somebody there to pick up the slack, and they certainly did a very fine job.
Dean, obviously we talk about you won this tournament in the past. You won it this recent time, and you've won the ladies tournament in the past. But question comes up is that, recently, you're not shy to catching big fish either. I mean, in that Dorkiwani tournament, now, obviously you guys didn't have a winning ticket on that, but obviously you guys had a fish big enough that would have probably won that tournament or come close, correct?
We certainly would have. We had some real nice fish and some that, would have been close or would have we think probably won the thing, but it's just one of those things that's the luck of the draw a lot of times.
So in that situation, when you're fishing, like say in that Dorkiwani tournament, obviously, you and your crew have tickets to get involved in that. Is it something that you have to try to let your clients know, and it's an extra expense to them, but in the same token, I mean, it's happened before in years past where people have gone on charters and had fish that would have won the prize and then they don't. Is that a tough sell on your part to try to get them to buy that ticket?
It is, and I made a couple years ago. I used to push it a little harder than I do now, and it was a tough sell to get people to do it. And then if they didn't buy the ticket, I always felt bad. And so basically, what I do now is always before the tournament starts, a couple weeks ahead of time, I put right on our website, right on the front page that the tournament's going on. You're welcome to buy tickets. They certainly don't have to. And I would say, boy, this year and in other years, I would say out of the week, if we run 12 charters, maybe 6 of them have tickets. And it seems to never fail. The big fish always come on the trips where 1 or 2 guys don't have a ticket. And that trip where we had the real big one this year, all but 2 on board had tournament tickets. So it's just tough to swallow when you think there could have been a $10,000 fish there, but the way it goes. And if we'd have had tickets, there's probably a good chance that big one wouldn't have bid anyway. So it's the way it goes.
So, Dean, we know you're busy. You run a lot of trips. We all know that. Would you be willing, or are you guys considering at all heading south, fish any of the other tournaments on the southern ports in Wisconsin? Has that been considered at all?
Well, we obviously would love to, and if money was no option, we certainly would be. But like I say, we are busy all summer long. So it's the one weekend that the tournament trail comes to Sturgeon Bay. That's pretty much the weekend that we have set aside for tournaments. But down the road, yeah, it would be great. Someday if all the stars align, maybe that's what we'll be doing a little more, and go from there.
Hey, Dean, getting back to that, selling those tickets, do you think there would be an advantage, if they allowed the charter guys to sell those tickets on the boat? Would that be a hassle to you, or do you think you would be able to sell more tickets?
No, I've thought that for years. That's one of the things that I know we would be able to do at 4 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, guys, everybody's geared up to go fishing, and everybody's always got big expectations at the dock. I really don't think that would be a problem for us to sell tickets, but I also understand the other argument where having them on the boat could open up a little bit more chance for some sketchy stuff to happen. But at the same token, I mean, the tournament is largely based on the honor system anyway, so you've got in all the ports, Oklahoma, Sturgeon Bay, Bailey Harbor, all the ports I consider most for the most part, like captains running charter boats are a top-notch crew, and I don't think you have any issues with that. And I certainly would bring in a considerable amount of revenue to the tournament, I would think. But there again, I'm not on the tournament committee and don't know all the details, but I would certainly think that'd be something worth looking into.
Dean, we're almost out of time here. Do you use this now as a big marketing tool, right? 2-time winner of the Offshore Challenge. Phone ring a little bit more often now?
Well, it's hard to say. This time of the year, stuff's starting to wind down here a little bit. It certainly won't hurt. I think we've built a pretty strong reputation over the years, whether winning tournaments or not. So we've been very fortunate to be probably one of the busier charter boats here in town. And I can attribute it to a lot of things. I attribute it to we always try to make sure that every group that comes on our boat has an enjoyable experience, whether the fish bite or not. Some days the fishing's a little bit slower. There's nothing you can do about that, but you can always try to make sure that people have an experience that they can go home with memories and have a good time. So I think, back to the question, I'm sure the winning tournaments definitely helps and certainly won't hurt.
You have multiple boats. You do different types of charters, yes, not just salmon.
We do actually. My brother, Captain Bob's got a 21-foot Ranger boat that he does bass and walleye trips out on the bay side, as well as small group salmon trips out on Lake Michigan. And then Captain Dan Rankin's got a 20-foot Ranger boat. He does the same thing. He's primarily our bass and walleye guy, and then for salmon, we've just got the one boat, but we do have another boat alongside of us that we kind of use for our overflow trips, and we work close together with a couple other charters here in town. So it seems to work out pretty good.
Dean, we're winding down here. One last question for you. The fishery, the salmon fishery overall this year, pretty phenomenal, correct?
It is. It's probably one of the best years I can remember. I'm trying to think back. I know it was we had some excellent fishing back in 2006, but I don't think by the time the dust settles here this fall and the numbers get tallied, I think overall Lake Michigan definitely is going to put up some huge numbers this year. Certainly has at Sturgeon Bay, and from what I gather, all the other ports are sharing similar results. So I think it's going to be a really good year. The size of the fish is probably, I would say, down maybe slightly from last year, but we've got some excellent catches of good, 15 to 18 pound class fish, with a couple of them a little bigger. So we'll see what happens, see what the next couple of years hold. But I'll tell you, there sure was a good year this year.
Do any of our listeners want to get a hold of you? What's the best way?
A couple different ways. You can either go online to our website at hookedupsportfishingcharters.com, or if you give a call at my cell phone, which is 920-495-5586.
All right, thanks for your time, and congratulations to winning last weekend's Sturgeon Bay Offshore Challenge.
Hey, one last thing here, guys. I was just thinking, if you guys are on the air here, I'd like to, our team decided, we sat down after the tournament and decided to donate $5,000 worth of fishing charters to Hunter Vincent Fishing Extravaganza. So if you guys have, anybody's got time, go on the website, read the story. An 8-year-old boy that got his time cut a little bit short, and we're just happy we could help him out.
All right, that's awesome. Now, what's the story behind that?
Well, Hunter was an 8-year-old kid that had a really rare disease. 1 in a million people get it, and he ended up it was a heart disease. And his father started out a fishing tournament for kids that actually raised money every year for local people down in the Pier area and in northeast Wisconsin. So it's a really neat program. And Hunter's dad actually contacted me last spring for to donate a charter, and as I'm sure Tim can recall, from back from running charters, we get a lot of calls from people looking for donations, and this was one that just happened to catch me, and it slipped through the cracks, and I was never able to follow up with Steve, Hunter's dad. So when I thought about the story a few times throughout the summer, and when we won the tournament, I thought this would be a better way to help them out a little bit.
That's really good stuff, Dean. Thanks for your time again today.
You betcha. Thank you, guys. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, Dean.
All right, Dean Gordon from Hooked Up Charters joining us this week on Door County Outdoors. Continuing Door County Outdoors now on WDOR, and certainly congratulate Dean and all the guys he had on the boat there, but some really good stuff there at the end, donating, what do you say, $5,000 worth of fishing trips to charity.
Yeah, you know what, Dean's, I've known Dean since I've been here a long time. Dean's obviously a little bit younger than I, but it's kind of, yeah, well, quite a bit. We'll rephrase that, but it's always nice to see guys that come up and Dean started fishing and then to eventually make this a career and and do as well as what he's doing, and not just in the chartering or the fishing of the tournaments, but now he's also giving back, different charities and donating time and that, and that's about as good as it gets as far as that goes. And I'm sure that you're going to hear a lot more about Dean and his adventures here, because he's a good guy, good fisherman, and he does a lot for charity. So it doesn't get much better than that.
All right, we started the tournament. You fished the women's and kids tournament. You guys did on Friday. How did it go?
Well, it went very well. As usual, we've had that group of girls. A few less this year. We only had 3, but I think it's been the last probably 7, 8 years that we've fished. Not every year. This year, my daughter asked if we could fish again, and we were fishing with a good friend of ours, Dave Anderson, on a nice, beautiful boat, and we had a good time. A little bit windy, as usual.
Never fails. Yeah.
Every
You
year
can chalk that Friday up for 20s.
Yeah, you could have no wind for 2 weeks, and then that Friday, like Mike said, it's going to be windy, and it's always been. But the girls are pretty hardy. Had a good time. Caught some really nice fish, and Mike can attest to this. There's something about some people don't like the aspect of fishing tournaments, but the fun thing about doing that is that we could take the girls out and go fun fishing, and that would be fine too. I'm sure they would have a good time. But there's that aspect of having a tournament when there's something on the line that when the rod goes off, something in your brain clicks, and the excitement level is multiplied times 10.
Yeah, I mean, tournament fishing, there's people, like you said, some people feel tournament fishing brings out the bad side in people sometimes, or the overly competitive side in people, and it kind of ruins some of the aspects of fishing. But for the most part, and the majority of people, it's just what you said. I mean, it really, just reeling a fish in when it gets halfway to the boat and you see it's a big fish, where the thought of losing it in a tournament just makes it that much more exciting, or getting it in, however you want to look at it, compared to just a fun trip where, okay, it came off, all right, no big deal, just the whole aspect of tournament fishing. And then at the end of the day, we're coming in, we're weighing fish, trying to figure out what our weight's going to be and where that might put us, and taking pictures, and it's just a fun deal.
Yeah, and that did happen. We did lose a pretty nice fish behind the boat. But the cool thing is that the emphasis on that tournament is the girls don't have to necessarily set the lines or grab the rods out of the rod holders or dipsies or that, but they pretty much got to reel the fish in and net the fish. And that's always
the netting part, especially. That's fun,
So, I mean, this year we had. Let's just say this.
So these are the outtakes then. Just the netting.
Let's just say this: that the net that we had is now a foot shorter due to a technical difficulty that we had. But always a good time, and it's just a fun thing. And I guess I would encourage anybody to get involved with that. I mean, if you got a wife, girlfriend, your kids. It's just to get involved. And like Mike said, it's not the competitive thing, because really, you're basically just going out and having a fun day fishing. So really the competitive stuff is really on the boat. It just creates that, hey, we got to get this fish in. Oh, we got, your mind's thinking. And then when you come in, you weigh your fish. Hey, it is what it is. You're wherever you're going to be, you're going to be.
And the one thing about salmon fishing, I fish a lot of tournaments. Tim, you fish tournaments. Salmon fishing tournaments are a little bit different. You don't have that real competitive like boat edge, I mean, like a bass tournament, a walleye tournament, a lot of times the night before, you're so worried about, hey, who's going to be fishing my spot? Am I going to have this? I got to get there first. Where's my draw number? I got to get to those fish first. And salmon fishing is just not like that. I mean, everybody's fishing basically the same water. I mean, you might go deeper, shallower, north-south, so to get away from traffic, like Dean was saying. But overall, you're fishing the bank for the most part, some aspect of it. And it's a little bit different. You can concentrate more on the fishing aspect than you do in other tournaments where you have to concentrate on, hey, he's on my spot, he's on my reef. Or,
if you're not there first, wait 2 minutes.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
And then you can come behind them.
So it's a lot of the fishing part, just like Dean said, little details, more so sometimes an exact location can play a bigger part in a salmon tournament than it would a walleye or a bass tournament.
Although, if you were going to say we had an advantage this year, you probably would say we had an advantage. We were fishing on a really nice boat, well outfitted. Definitely, it was a treat really to fish on. It's a boat that we filmed on in the past. Girls had a great time. The crew had a great time. And really, like Dean said, and Mike and I talk about this all the time, when you're fishing with a good group of people, it just is fun. And Chad, you've done tournaments in the past.
Yeah, I fished with you guys. You brought me back in, so that was good.
Yeah, you're still here.
It was a successful trip.
Yeah, we didn't have to float you out on the week.
Yeah.
But you've been out there, and you can attest to just that feeling. You get a fish on, and oh, you got to get in the boat. Then you get in the boat, there's like a little weight lifted, and then you get the next one on, and it's really fun. And they've made the criteria for these tournaments now. You weigh 5 fish, which you would say is easier, but that's not necessarily true. But it gives everybody more of a fighting chance. So that mentality, you know, if you got a 50-foot boat that can cross the lake, you know, and you're fishing in a 24-footer, now everybody's kind of on the same playing field. As far as, you know, it's only 5 fish that you got to catch. But definitely a great time. I would encourage anybody for next year getting involved. And this year the tournament was free. You know, the money was donated, I think, by Lexington Homes for the ladies tournament. And they done that to get just more kids and women involved. And they actually had 20 boats, I think the biggest that they've had. Not all the boats weighed in. I think only 14 had weighed in. Some of them had no fish. Some of them had some mechanical issues. But you know, and maybe next year it'll be bigger.
And you know, that's a good point too, because a lot of times we say ladies tournament a lot, but it's also a kids tournament too. So I'm not exactly sure what the age cutoff is, but you can have, you know, boys or girls fishing the kids portion of the tournament. It's not strictly a ladies event.
Yeah,
you know?
I actually think it's 16, under 16, and you know, and you and I, we've been fishing that since we've had kids. So they were quote unquote kids, and now they're you know, ladies. And that's what's fun about it is, and Mike and I both enjoy that. You know, these are kids that we fished with. I've known personally when they were little kids, babies, and it's kind of cool to see them mature. And you know, the neat thing about fishing is it brings people together. You know, the one thing about the tournament is that it gives you a date. You know, so in other words, you know, we had talked about, well, you know, if we didn't fish the tournament, we could still go out and fun fish with the kids. But the neat thing with the tournament is that it gives you a date, a set point. You know, so in other words, hey, you know what? Here's the date. It's August 17th. This is the day we're going to fish on, and so everybody can prepare. As opposed to, hey, we want to get together. You know how that goes. You talk about getting together, and then all of a sudden the season's over. So even if it's just from that standpoint, say you don't even like to fish the tournament. You know, if you got some family members, your kids, set the date. You know, the date will be posted for next year, coming up soon. Get the date set. Hey, you know what? Next year we're going to fish this. We're going to have a good time. Set the date. Start planning for it now, and you're going to have a great time. There's no doubt about it.
Thing that surprised me, just looking the tournament up a little bit, this was the 9th annual already. Things been around. They're trying to build it. It seems to always be in that 30 to 40 boat range, but it's changed a lot over the years. Evolved. There's now, you know, the pros and the amateurs. It's basically a different entry fee, and then you can fish the lake or the bay now. So it continues to evolve, and hopefully it'll be around for another 10 years.
Yeah, you know, the only thing that affects that is economy, and you know, obviously the last 3, 4, 5 years, economy has been tough. But that still goes to show you, even in a tough economy, people still want to get out, enjoy some fishing, and even if it's just for 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, you know, if you're going to fish the ladies or the full tournament. Encourage everybody to get out. This tournament was the first here on our side, and now it's grown. There's a few ports south of us that the same circuit goes through, and you know, hopefully eventually you'll start to see it grow down the coast. And it's just a great organization, great tournament to fish, and you know, a lot of fun to fish.
All right, Mike, what do you have up this week on FishDoorCountyTV.com?
That's still undetermined. There's a couple choices we got. We'll see how some of the editing process goes from a time standpoint. But we do have a really cool show coming up. It might be up right now. It might be up the following week. We'll have to see. But I got a chance to go out with the fisheries biologist at Tammy Paoli that we did the brown trout show with, and do the young of the year perch troweling research studies that they're doing right now in the lower bay. Some really cool stuff. We got some good footage of young of the year perch, how that all works, how they determine the state of the population and all that stuff. So cool stuff, and you know, be sure to check it out this week. It might be up, if not, for sure the following week.
All right, guys, thanks for stepping in this week.
Chad, we'll
Thanks,
see you
Chad.
later.
All right, Tim and Mike from FishDoorCountyTV.com on Door County Outdoors. Thanks to Dean Gordon as well. And we've been brought to you this Saturday by the Neighborhood Pub and Grill, 14th at Egg Harbor Road, Sturgeon Bay.